Lawsome by ConsultWebs. Breakthrough insights to build a thriving law firm with your host, Tanner Jones.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Lawsome. Today on our show, I'm excited to be talking with Lubna Forzley, Managing Director of Stories, a consulting firm which helps companies and leaders create stories worth sharing. Lubna has more than 20 years of experience, both in leadership and consulting roles within the international blue chip organizations and across various industries, including e-commerce, banking, and human development. She managed her own consulting firm called Stories and held leading roles in companies like Coca-Cola. She's coached thousands of professionals to find and articulate their purpose. She's a speaker, a writer, and a moderator on various business topics, and even presented her own TEDx talk entitled Disrupt with Purpose and Creating a Story Worth Sharing. So today's topic is how lawyers can begin to use stories to attract new clients. Welcome, Lubna. We're very excited to have you today.
I'm very excited to be here. Thank you.
Most certainly. Storytelling is a concept that's been used in business for a long time. It helps us to build confidence and loyalty with our clients and with the marketplace through connecting with narratives. Many lawyers use storytelling arguably every single day. So Lubna, let's start by asking you, what's the main reason attorneys should be using storytelling as a tool to attract new business?
I would say the main reason is stories are memorable. At the end of the day, people don't buy products, they buy other people. And they want to work with lawyers because they want to trust lawyers with their story. And they want to trust their lawyer to win their case, basically. It's essentially like the end goal is for the lawyer to win their case. And if they can't connect with you through storytelling, then they won't be working with you. So if you want people to work with you, I think it's really important to have a story and to connect with others through a relatable story.
It's a great point, but let's start with some of the excuses. Let's throw some excuses on the table and let you bust through those. So some lawyers, they may say they're not professional writers, or maybe they just can't develop a story. Maybe they're not creative. Regardless of what that excuse is, something's getting in the way for them to craft a story that they feel like is compelling. So can you talk us through what's a solid process that an attorney can use to really begin to develop that story? Any particular steps you would recommend or a framework?
Yeah, there are a lot of steps, but before we talk about the steps, I think what's really important is for lawyers to be authentic. So let me give you an example. If I'm a coach and I'm following a process while I'm coaching, I'm not authentic, I'm not present, I'm totally focused on, asking a list of questions that follow the process, and that doesn't work. The objective really is to be 100% authentic, and the best way to be authentic is to follow a concept called empathy marketing, which is basically empathizing with your customer, putting yourself in their shoes, understanding what they're going through, and seeing, marketing through the customer's eyes, basically. So you're being 100% customer centric and you're focusing on them. And there you don't really need to be an award-winning storyteller. You just need to understand your customer. You need to understand their challenges. You need to understand their pain and their gain. Every customer will come to you with a specific pain, and you need to understand that. And you're there to solve a problem for them. So the heart of every story is really, what is the pain and what is the gain? And the idea is to take people on a journey where you show them that you have helped win cases in the past for other customers, and you've helped transform these pains into gains, if that makes sense. If you want, I can take you through like a storytelling process.
Let's do that. Let's talk through that. I think that's helpful, and you're right. I mean, authenticity, that shapes you. That's the origin, right? And then so now let's get into some of the fundamentals that you've learned in your experience.
Yeah, and I think what's really important also is to show people your why, your reason for being, your purpose. Why are you in this business? How are you doing this business, and what differentiates you from other people? So always focusing on the why, the how, and the what, and making sure that that's very authentic because it will come through. In terms of a process, there are many different storytelling processes, and there are many archetypes. What's really important is to always hook with a question or with a statistic, because you want to hook people. And you want to be very brief and very simple when you're hooking people. So hook with a question or a statistic, then take people on a journey from A to Z, and then conclude with a lesson. I mean, if I could simplify the process, I would say it's a 3-step process: by hooking, taking people on a journey, and then concluding with a lesson. And when you're taking people on a journey, you want to pick among many different archetypes. So there are 7 different archetypes. Essentially, if you were to step back and look at people's stories, they all pretty much are the same at their heart, but they're different variations. So you want to look at the different archetypes that you have and pick one of the archetypes that best suits your client. So, for example, overcoming adversity is an example of an archetype. So basically, you're going through a story of a person who has overcome adversity, and you've helped that person overcome adversity, and you share that story of how you've helped them go from, overcome their adversity from point A to point B, and what the lesson was in that, and how you were able to take them through that journey and win the case. So we can go through all of the archetypes if there is time. But basically, essentially, it's picking an archetype that best suits your client, running with it, and making sure that you're following that process of hooking, going through the journey, and concluding with the lesson, showing a resolution. It's really important to show the resolution in the lesson.
It's helpful, and I want to touch on something because you prefaced all of this with the point of be authentic, be honest. You want to present who you truly are and how you're helping. That is the origin behind it all. But I think some could argue that trying to follow a framework or being too rigid could often force you out of that. So let's touch on the advantages. From your personal experience, what have you seen industries, businesses, individuals, maybe even lawyers, what have they seen personally with the advantage of using this structure that you're referring to?
The best advantage is that it connects with your audience, right? Empathy marketing and storytelling connect with the audience. The audience is coming to you because they want to know that they're not alone. Somebody else has gone through this. So they want to feel like you've done it for somebody else and you were able to help somebody else and bring somebody else to a good resolution. And if you can't show that, then they won't come and work with you. And so the biggest win, I would say, is the connection that you're creating with the customer, because at the end of the day, they're coming to you with a problem, and marketing is about solving a problem. You want to show that you're able to solve the problem, and you want to show that you're able to get them to the objective that they're trying to get to in a way that is simple, quick, and affordable.
That's good. Yeah, and that's just, I mean, you want brand recall. And what you're referring to, you made the comment earlier, storytelling is it's impressionable, it's memorable, and that's exactly what you're suggesting. It's 101 to marketing. So let me change gears slightly on you, Lubna, but one of the greatest aspects of storytelling is that lawyers can truly use it anywhere and everywhere, whether it's in the courtroom, whether it's, working with their marketing team and working through marketing messaging and language to use, whether it's dealing with a client or maybe an intake, a brand new prospective client, and you're working to tell your story around that, maybe even in the home, literally everywhere. So it's clearly important to understand the process of telling a story and making it effective to ultimately resonate with whoever the audience may be. Lubna, you have more than 20 years of experience working with some pretty major companies in various industries and now supporting professionals like attorneys. So based on what you've learned, what would you say are some of the best practices to create a story that ultimately impacts the audience and generates great results?
So I think being relatable is really important. It's a step beyond being memorable. It's also being relatable. Being authentic, I'm just going to go through a list of things, key principles that I would say are really, really important. So first and foremost, knowing your audience and having a niche. You shouldn't be a jack of all trades. You should be very clear on who you're focusing on and know your audience inside out. Create a persona for your audience. Know exactly like how they live their life, what their pains are, what they're going through, what makes them tick. So know your audience inside out, and create a niche that actually targets that audience. Be authentic. Use language that connects with your audience. Use their words, use their language. Again, you're not talking to a machine, you're talking to a human being. So the more you can replicate the persona of your audience in your marketing, the more successful you'll be, because you are using their language, their struggles, their emotions. I would say standing for something. I think lawyers tend to like be so careful in their marketing and in their approach, and they try to hide their personality because they're so careful. But the people that actually make it are the people who stand for something, who are truth tellers, who are fearless, who know what they stand for, and go out and make it happen. And so I think it's really important to just show up as your real self, as your whole self. There is no such thing as, oh, I'm one person at work and I'm another at home. You are one person everywhere, and you need to show up as that one person with your why, your how, and your what in all your interactions. And you need to be credible. You can't say something on screen that's not reflective in your real life. So just really essentially being yourself and connecting with other people and your clients as human beings.
Lubna, you've alluded to this already, just with respect to connecting on a personal or even emotional level. But let's get into the emotion of this. And can you tell us a little bit about how a law firm can connect with an audience? Maybe some practical suggestions or tips specifically on how to, in the process of attracting customers, how can you really relate to them on that emotional level?
Yeah, I'm going to address the two. They're two separate questions, so I'm going to address them one after the other. So I think it's really important to, again, use the meet the customer where they're at, or meet your clients where they're at. And in that case, when you're meeting them where they're at, you want to use their words. You want to make sure that that's reflected in writing and verbally, because that will help you for SEO purposes, so search engine optimization purposes. That will make you searchable online. It will make your brand searchable online. And when people go online and they're looking for a lawyer, they're typing, how do I do whatever, or how do I find whatever. So using their words and adding how uh, to that, so that people can search you and people can find you. You want to make sure that, again, you're very niche focused, you're daring to be different, and you have a call to action. At the end of the day, you want to make sure that as you take people through a journey or through a story, that they can take action at the end and connect with you and come to you for a free call or an exploration call or whatever you want to offer, so that they can get to know you on a person to person basis. So you want to make sure that you take people on a journey, and that journey has to end with a call to action, so they come to you and meet you live, and see if there's chemistry between the two of you. In terms of emotions, at the end of the day, you're there to either educate or entertain, but the objective of entertainment is to sell, right? It's not to just entertain for the sake of entertaining. So you want to make sure that the emotion that you're invoking is that emotion of winning, the emotion of achievement. They want to win. They're coming to you because they want to win their case, because they want to achieve something. So you want to bring about that emotion in all of your storytelling, in all of your narrative, in all of your writing, in all of your speeches. You want to use case studies to show how you've made other people win and achieve, because that's what will make them connect with you. And you want to do that in a way where you're using relatable content. If you can add humor to that, um, that would be good. And I think, I'm only saying humor because I'm just using the example of Johnny Depp's um, case, which has gone viral, obviously. And I think the two cases of this year have been Johnny Depp and have been Britney Spears, right? And in both cases, they're very relatable, they're very honest. There is no jargon, there is no fancy words. It's just human to human conversation. And it's very, it takes people on a journey and on a story. that basically helps the individual overcome adversity. And they've essentially created movements. And I think if you can find a way to create a movement, that's like the ultimate, end goal.
And it's powerful. The emotion piece, I think, especially in the legal profession, it's tough. There are a lot of emotions in this area. Depending on the practice area that a law firm may be handling, the emotions can be quite, may I say, dramatic, or just intense. And so I would like to ask you, I come from the sales world, and the idea of motivators, you really tap into emotion. And they say one of the biggest drivers or influencers in making someone come to a decision is often fear of loss. What are they missing by not making a decision? A close second would be opportunity for gain. And I kind of, as you're talking through, I'm hearing that you're recommending lawyers really posture themselves with their storytelling, with their brand, with their messaging and their dialogues with first-time prospective clients as if they are winning. They're postured for winning. And because that's, prospective clients naturally appeal to that. They're attracted to that. But what's your take on comparing that fear of loss concept versus opportunity for gain or opportunity to win? Has that come into play in your guiding other lawyers in this process?
I don't like to use fear of loss personally. I think people like positive stories and people connect with a positive resolution. So personally, I don't like to use fear of loss. I stay away from it, and I counsel my clients to stay away from it as well. It's almost like, you talk to a smoker and you tell them, oh, you're about to die, but they're still gonna smoke anyways. And so that doesn't work in my view. And it's more focused on the negative rather than the positive. But I think if you focus on the positive and you're relatable and you create a movement, Johnny Depp's case and Britney Spears' case contain very severe emotions, right? There's a lot of anger, there's a lot of injustice, possibly, and so at the end of the day, they portrayed their case in a way that's positive. They showed how they want to overcome the injustice. And in Johnny Depp's case, he uses humor, which has worked really, really well. And I think people are connecting with that. It's gone viral. Um, and if you compare, his story today on social media, I'm not talking who's going to win at the end, because I don't know who's going to win at the end, but on social media, he's clearly winning because he's using humor, because he's being relatable, because he's showing he's overcoming adversity through humor. He's created a movement for himself. So I would prefer that positive, lighthearted approach to more of the fear of loss approach.
As we kind of wrap up this conversation, I want to take our listeners down the path of what's next. So we've talked through the process, the framework, the steps, all that lead to helping you create that true story that accurately reflects your business, who you are, and how you help. That's all great, but at the end of the day, that's not where the work ends, and arguably that's only where it begins. There's a lot more to getting that message, getting that story out to the public, out to the right clients. So for a strategy to attract customers, how would you recommend a lawyer begin to share their narrative, share that story? How would you guide them through that process?
There are many, many different ways, but I would say if you can use case studies without mentioning names, that would be wonderful. Case studies do really well. I think if you can use your own story to connect with people, that would also work really well. So if you were in a situation that is similar to the client's situation and you can use your story to anchor, you know, what the client is going through using your emotion and what you have gone through, that would be really wonderful. So I would say these two. The other thing that I would say is I find that lawyers tend to live in their heads a lot. Like they're very serious and they're very focused on the message and the exact word to write. And that takes away the humanity from basically the message. And I would advise them to do the exact opposite. I would advise them to try to be as human as possible. and not to focus too much on legal jargon and legal words, and just be very authentic and human.
It's so true. And in as much as we want, I've said this before, but the good cases don't always go to the great lawyers, unfortunately. And it's often because of what we're talking about here. Someone else has stepped in and better resonated. Let's be honest. They've compelled that prospective client to them because of their unique story, even though they may not even be at the same level as the greatest lawyer in the market. But that just shows how powerful this concept is that you're talking about here, Lubna.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it's all about relationships, right? It's all about networking. It's all about relationships. You can be the most credible lawyer in the world. You can have, so many great things going for you. But if you can't build relationships, if you can't relate to people, if you can't connect with people, if you can't network, then the chances of you succeeding is not going to work. And you can have the best story, by the way. And even if you had the best story in the world that is perfectly crafted by an expert, if you're not able to express that story authentically, if you're not able to just go out and build relations and use that story to power your relationships, then your chances of success are not very high.
That's a good point. You've worked with lawyers and being in the industry. I'm curious to hear, are you seeing that lawyers are using storytelling incorrectly? I mean, are there any errors that you've personally experienced that you would love to see fixed within the industry?
Yeah, I'd love to see lawyers be more themselves and be more human and be more unique and different, and to have the courage to actually be different and unique. I still see, and I think maybe because they're trained that way, but I still see lawyers being very serious, being very so focused on their website and what word is going to go where. And that's not where people are. Meet people where they're at. Use multi-channel communication. Have a communication plan that touches on all angles. That includes partnerships, building relationships, social media. Your website is only 0.111% of your marketing plan, right? And I think that lawyers are still in a mental space that's very traditional. And the world has evolved, and I think they need to evolve. Again, if you look at the example of Johnny Depp's case, they're not following any of the traditional principles. They've gone out, they're 100% themselves, they're taking people on a fun journey, and I think just they're 100% themselves, they're being unique, they're being different, and I think that's really important for lawyers to do. And show also, maybe that last thing that I would say is the power of the relationship between you and your client. You have to be on the same page. You have to be on the same team. You have to coordinate with each other, your messages. You need to have your clear messages coordinated with your lawyer, and you need to stick with these and do that in an authentic way.
Very good. Lubna, for those who want to reach out to you, what's the best way that they can find you?
I would say the best way to connect with me would be on LinkedIn, or through my website. My contacts are there, and I offer any client who wants to work with me a 30-minute free session just to get to know each other, see if the chemistry is there. So I would offer any lawyer that 30 minutes to just come and get to know me, and vice versa. And I would also encourage them to be 100% authentic, and I want them to chillax and be lawsome, exactly as you say in your podcast. Just chill and be yourself and be awesome.
Lubna Forzley with Stories. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Lawsome by ConsultWebs with Tanner Jones. For show notes, links, and info, go to consultwebs.com/podcast. Be sure to subscribe and leave us a review. Watch for the next Lawsome episode to discover more breakthrough insights to build a thriving law firm.